Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and on Twitter at MMA LOTN. If you guys have been following me on Twitter, you guys will know the stupidity that came across my life yesterday. Thought I had hit record, and I think I've actually whittled down the reasoning as to why it didn't end up recording, so I know for sure I hit record. It just turns out the camera that I used to record, I had not deleted the prior podcast that I had recorded with it. So it's a very limited storage space on the camera itself. I think it started recording, and then there was only about 2 minutes of it that I actually got, and then it just stopped recording itself. You know, one-man show over here, so it's a little bit difficult to see if the camera is actually rolling or not after I hit play or record. But now I know. Just always make sure that I'm checking the recycling bin on the phone and all that stuff to make sure it's completely clear and ready to go for another podcast. So that was my stupidity. So my punishment, I got to go through this entire card again from bottom to top, hopefully bring the same type of passion and energy that I did last night when I was recording it. It's probably better that I recorded today anyway. I was coming off a 2.5 to 3 hour podcast yesterday with one of the guests that I had in studio. So I was still trying to give it my best. I feel like I did really good. However, there is no evidence out there in terms of actually getting able to see what my performance was like last night. So, you guys get a brand new one regardless. Going to record this from the beginning. I'm hoping I still touch on everything that I hit yesterday. I'm pretty sure I will once I really get into the swing of things. So let's just get into it. Let's do the quick recap of the prior event, which was UFC Auckland. Lock of the night hits 4.75 units on Yan Xiaonan minus 256. Profits for 1.86 units. Happy with that one. I knew pretty much from the get-go that she was going to be my lock of the night play. I waited until maybe an hour or two before the actual event to place the bet because I was hoping there's going to be some late money coming in on Carolina. That just didn't end up happening, so I had to kind of bite the bullet and play the minus 256, and I'm happy with that. People will talk about, they cap a fighter at minus 240 or something like that, and they'll never play them if they get past that. I understand that logic, and I'm totally behind it. But with the lock of the night play thing, for me, it's if I am uber confident in a specific fighter or in a super or in a prop or whatever the fuck it is, I'm giving myself up to minus 300 or even minus 350 if I need to, if there's really nothing else on the card that I can dig my teeth into. But with Yan, I knew from the get-go, I was even willing to bet her up as high as the minus 300 range. She's just, this was the perfect matchup for her. So lock of the night play hits. Everything else kind of shits the bed. 1.2 units at plus 174 on Loma Lukbunmi. Not too mad with the value that I ended up getting on Loma and her performance. The only issue I did have in that fight was the fact in the first round that she accepted the back foot as often as she did. I kind of expected her to push it a little bit more, but it is what it is. Angela Hill goes out there and gets another victory in this crazy run that she's on. And then also I had another dog in the night play, 0.75 units at plus 185 on Kai Kara-France and Tyson Nam to go under 2.5 rounds. I expected those guys to go out there and throw leather. They did. I expected one of their chins to actually take the fall there, but both of their chins, did hold up, so we ended up whiffing on that one there. And then also I had a small sprinkle on Yan Xiaonan inside the distance, 0.25 units at plus 480. That fight was pretty damn close to being stopped. If I was on Carolina's corner, I probably would have thrown in the towel, but that's probably just me being biased as fuck and missing out on that. So with all that whiffing and including the Hail Mary Patreon parlay, minus 2.5 units or 0.25 units there, we ended up minus 0.59 units on the night. Small loss, very small loss, but it's a loss nonetheless, so it hurts just as much. But we're back right into the thick of things with UFC Norfolk going down this weekend, headlined by Joseph Benavidez and Davison Figueiredo. Great fight there in terms of guys that are deserving of that title shot. The odds are kind of roller coastery over the last couple of days in terms of going from close to a pick'em to now minus 145 Joseph Benavidez. Kind of get the love there. I completely understand that. The card overall in terms of throughout, and again, I say this every fucking podcast. I'm an MMA nerd, and with the amount of time that you put into each of these matchups, even if you don't have a bet on it, you still want to see how it plays out in terms of your reads and seeing if you actually, called the fight the way that it should have been. So I'm very excited. But, a couple of things that stand out to me: the Australian Wonder Boy Ismail Naurdiev against Sean Brady. That should be a great fight. I'm excited for the debut of Aalon Cruz, who had a great, performance on the Contender Series. Brendan Allen against Tom Breese. That's a fight that I'm really looking forward to. Luis Pena, it's always fun to watch him fight. Megan Anderson, she's trying to string together a couple wins in the featherweight division to stake a claim for a title shot. Young Cutelaba against Magomed Ankalaev. That should be fireworks. That should be a great fight. Felicia Spencer should be, going in there and bulldozing this girl, Zarah Fairn. Again, still mystified as to why it's the co-main event. Feel like they'd want to push Megan Anderson a little bit more, but then again, you're kind of spitting in Felicia Spencer's face if you headline with Megan Anderson over Felicia Spencer, where, Spencer just beat her a couple fights ago, so I get that. And then obviously the main event, super happy that Benavidez is getting a title shot against somebody not named Dominic Cruz, or not named Demetrius Johnson. His only other loss other than those two guys was that one against Sergio Pettis, where he was coming back off of a pretty extensive layoff. So that's just something to keep in mind with that fight. But this is a great fight with him and Davison Figueiredo. So I'm excited from bottom to top. Again, I'm not going to be able to watch it live now that I'm thinking about it. Me and my man Rockstar Z are going to be going to a local MMA event here in Kitchener, Ontario, not too far off from us. So we're going to be missing the fights, obviously. But then I believe we're going to come back to my place and just catch up and watch ourselves. So no spoilers. I'm going to stay off of social media as much as possible so I don't get anything fucking spoiled. I'm sure Z is going to do the same thing. At least I hope he will. But again, if you guys are in the Toronto area or near the Kitchener area, come out to the fights. Say hi. Say what's up. Shoot me a text on Twitter, before the UFC fight starts. The UFC fights start, or even hit up the YouTube comment section if you're going to be there, and come by and say what up. We'll say what up. Actually see these people in person, and no more fucking keyboard warriors for some of these guys. All right, let's get into the fight. I'm kind of surprised that they're actually kicking off the card with Ismail Naurdiev against Sean Brady. This fight should be fun while it lasts. We'll start off with Sean Brady. Had a pretty impressive debut against Court McGee first time out. Apologies. He brought a very interesting style to the cage. He's kind of lucky that he had the speed advantage over Court McGee in that fight because he was pretty much landing whenever he wanted to. Throws a lot of big looping hooks. Has a mean leg kick as well too. So if he's able to establish that, that should really play into his game here against Ismail. I think he could make it a grinding fight too. I think he could get this fight to the ground. I think he's strong enough and he has the technique to back it up too. But with Ismail, in that fight against Sierra Bahadurzada last time around, I think people are getting a little bit jaded by that. I think people are saying like, oh, look, he took down Sierra pretty much at will and was able to hold on top for that entire fight. If you guys go back and watch Sierra's pretty much his entire career, whenever he's lost, it's due to guys doing the exact same thing, which is taking him down. His takedown defense is just not the greatest, and Ismail has decent wrestling credentials. He's not just a striker, has fun, really good striking abilities, but he's not a complete novice when it comes to grappling. I think he's going to have a lot of harder time taking Sean Brady down. I think the reason he took CR down is because he wanted to take out the possibility of CR landing one of those bombs and putting him out. I think once he starts feeling that from Sean Brady, he might try to go the same way, and I don't think he's going to be as successful with the takedowns as he was against Bahadurzada. So that's something to keep in mind here. I think it's gonna stay on its feet. And for Brady to come out on the winning end here, he's really going to have to establish that leg kick. I think if he starts to render Naurdiev a little bit immobile, it's going to be a long night for Naurdiev, and that's where I start to see Brady really closing the distance and implementing that grinding style of his as well. I see him being able to get Naurdiev down, so I'm not counting that out of the realm of possibility. In terms of odds, when I recorded this yesterday, or when I recorded the podcast yesterday, the imaginary podcast is out there in the ether. Brady was roughly around the plus 105-ish range, where he's currently at right now. I was thinking of betting him around the plus 125 range. I don't think he's going to get back to that, so I will monitor that line throughout the week and see if I can get that money back on him. Otherwise, I'm probably going to pass on this fight, but I'm going to take Sean Brady by decision. I think it's a great stylistic fight. Is it Naurdiev? Is he really going to be able to, implement his striking and stay loose on the feet and not really get too caught up in Sean Brady's power punches that he's going to be throwing and closing the distance with. Who knows? But I'm going to stay away from this fight, especially if it's going to be at a pick'em. But if you give me the plus 125 to plus 130 on Sean Brady, I'll consider it. But I'm not too keen on that either. So I'm going to take Sean Brady by decision there. But it's a very, very close fight, obviously considering the odds as well. All right, let's move on to Aalon Cruz against Spike Carlyle. We'll start off with Spike Carlyle. He was in the Contender Series a couple fights ago now. Was he in the Contender Series? Oh, I'm completely forgetting that. I'm absolutely mixing him up with somebody else. He's been in the LFA. He's had a couple fights. He's kind of like one of those Tay Edwards type of fighters. He's very dense. Like he's one of those shorter guys that are just jacked to shit. Loves to throw the overhand hooks. Just hooks in general, closing the distance, trying to land those power shots, trying to close the distance and trying to get you down. I believe it was his fight with, I can't remember exactly who it was, but he was having a lot of issues trying to close the distance with some of these fighters. But once he was actually able to close the distance, he was able to get some of these guys down. He's going to have a little bit of a size discrepancy to overcome here. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Aalon Cruz, 6 foot with a 78-inch reach. So once these guys actually get locked into the cage with each other, it's going to look like two guys that are probably not in the same weight class. Cruz does a really good job in terms of using his kicks, using his range, and using his length. I think that's where it's going to the spot that people are going to have to pay most attention to in terms of seeing how this fight is going to play out. I think he has a skill. He continues to get better in terms of holding that range and landing big shots. Say what you want about leading up to that flying knee that he had against Stephen Ewan. He did decent. The only real knock that I've seen on him, at least in the tape that I've ran, is in his fight against Dumont Blackshear, which he got tapped out in the fourth round. Was doing decent from range, but once Blackshear was able to close the distance and get his paws on him, it was tough for him to really break out of those positions. It just seemed like Dumont was the stronger fighter, and I think that Cruz has definitely gotten stronger since June of 2017. So that's something that he's going to have to continuously work on, especially against a very strong guy like Spike. But he did a decent job as long as his gas tank was holding up for him. And albeit that this fight went into the fourth round, that's when he started to slow down. And I got to believe that, in that amount of time, he has been able to work on his cardio. He looked really good in his last two decision fights, the NFC fight as well as his Contender Series fight. But again, I like what I see in terms of him holding his range, using his kicks as much as he does too. He's very fluid when he goes from orthodox to southpaw as well too. He does it like mid combination as well. That's something very impressive. Something that we see a lot out of Wonderboy Thompson. Not trying to compare the two, but that is a comparable trait that I have seen between them. So Cruz is going to continue to get better. I think stylistically this is a really tough fight for Spike. He's going to be eating a lot of shots, trying to close the distance. He's going to start to gas himself out, chasing the takedowns as well too. So I get the reason as to why Cruz is a minus 185 favorite. My only thing though, and it's something that I'm trying to implement in myself, and it's something that I believe I kind of fucked up in the last couple events or so, but don't bet on debuting fighters. And even if they're fighting a debuting fighter themselves, who knows what the mindset is going into that cage. And as much talent as I believe Cruz has, I'm not willing to part way with my money for that minus 185 on Cruz. I am taking Cruz to win, and I'm going to say probably by second round KO. But I just can't find myself to actually place the money on Cruz myself. Again, both guys are debuting here. Who knows who's going to come in there and believe that they deserve to be there more. Spike is coming in on pretty short notice. Cruz was actually supposed to fight Steven Peterson before. So that's something to take into consideration. Yeah, I think this is definitely a more favorable fight for Cruz, and obviously the odds reflect that. He was minus 120 against Steven Peterson. Here he is minus 185 against Spike. So I like Cruz. I'm going to take him by second round KO, but I'm staying away from it. I might put him in my Hail Mary parlay. That's something that I'll consider just because it's just peanuts that I'll put on that. But I'm happy with Cruz here, just not enough to bet him straight as an official bet. So I'm taking Cruz by second round KO. Hope that is persuasive enough for you guys. All right, next up we got TJ Brown against Jordan Griffin. Start off with Jordan Griffin. This is a guy that I believe is just like a kind of a jack of all trades, but his shining light or his most his best advantage, I'd say, would be his striking, especially in this matchup against TJ Brown. TJ Brown, in most of his fights, you can see that he makes no bones about it. He wants to get this fight to the ground as soon as possible. I think he's going to try to do the same thing here, too. The one thing that we saw in the Chaz Skelly fight for Jordan Griffin is that he's pretty good at scrambling. He's pretty good at getting out of bad positions. He has amazing sub defense. I don't know how the fuck he was still breathing when Chaz Skelly had him in that crazy submission in that first round, that rear naked choke. But he's able to get out of that. There's a lot of fun scrambles and transitions there. I think Chaz Skelly is a stronger wrestler than TJ Brown here. So I think that Jordan Griffin shouldn't have as much issues. And again, TJ Brown making his debut. If you guys remember his Contender Series fight, he actually got clocked pretty early by Dylan Lockhart. And then he eventually, came back, grinded that fight out, eventually got the arm triangle choke midway through the third round. I like Griffin here. In terms of odds, -130 Griffin. Slowly getting into bettable range, in my opinion. But I can never find myself actually, going to the betting windows and actually betting Jordan Griffin. I don't know what it is about him. Like, he's just good enough, but this might be TJ Brown's breakout fight. Like, he might go out there and take down Griffin right away and submit him. But in terms of the odds that I'm currently looking at, I lean towards Griffin. I don't mind the -130, but I'm not going to bet it myself. Again, I believe he has a superior striking. We've seen Brown rocked in the past before. We know that he's going to try to get this fight to the ground as soon as possible. But with what we've seen from Jordan Griffin in terms of his grappling defense and his scrambling abilities, I believe it's going to be a lot harder for TJ Brown to actually go out there and secure a position or secure some sort of submission on Jordan Griffin either. And again, he has those UFC jitters coming into this fight too. That's something to consider. And I feel like it's such an amateur thing to talk about, but we've seen it time and time again where guys come out there with their UFC debuts and they're highly touted or whatever the fuck it is, and they go out there and completely shit the bed. Like, the one that's always in my head, and it's a fight that I had a lot of money on, was my lock of the night play on Jeff Hughes over Maurice Green. Literally a fight, max 2 fights before Jeff Hughes went out there and beat Maurice Green in a 5-rounder, pretty decisively as well too. And then he goes out there and loses a decision to Maurice Green, again, 2 fights or so later. Did not show up at all, looked completely flat-footed, didn't even look like he wanted to be there. Could be TJ Brown, the same thing here too. He could have the superior grappling advantage and actually go out there and sub Jordan Griffin, but you got to think about those X factors on the outside in terms of TJ Brown getting the victory. So I'm going to go with Griffin via decision. Don't know if I'll actually put in my my Hail Mary parlay. Probably pass on it, but I'm taking Griffin by decision. Ugh. I'm not sure why my nose is bugging me so much, but it is what it is. Anyway, Sergey Spivak versus Marcin Tybura. This fight is pretty dead even. -120, +100 at 5 dimes right now, even on other bookies. But this is an interesting fight. If this fight took place maybe a year ago, you would probably get Marcin Tybura at like -300 or -250 or something like that. But Sergey Spivak has managed to, turn the crowd around and actually try to root for this kid. Walt Harris goes out there and starches him in 50 seconds and everybody's starting to write him off, especially in that Tai Tuivasa fight. A lot of people are going in there and like, Tuivasa's probably going to clip this kid on the chin, put him out, and move on. But Sergey Spivak goes out there and plays a perfect game plan, continues to get tied Tuivasa to the ground, then eventually finishes that fight off with an arm triangle choke in the second round. He's a big guy. These are 2 big heavyweights here. We got a 6'3", 78-inch reach for Spivak, 6'3", 78-inch reach for Tybura. I think that Spivak is actually going to have the slight advantage on the ground here. I think that's where he's going to want to get the fight. Marcin Tybura, we've seen him on numerous occasions go out there and outpoint his opponents on the feet. Smooth hands, decent footwork. But the issue with him coming into this fight is he's coming off of 2 pretty bad knockouts in his last couple fights. Shamil Abdurrahimov and then Augusto Sakai. You got to be wary about that. One little split, hiccup on the heavyweight scene in the UFC, and you can find yourself staring at the fucking lights. I think, I'm not saying that Sergey Spivak is any crazy power puncher out there or an amazing striking fighter, but you got to keep that in mind when you are betting these fights. I'm leading Spivak here. This fight is a complete pass for me. I don't trust Tybura's chin, nor do I trust the full arsenal that Spivak has here. And, Tybura is no slump on the ground either, too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, too. So he definitely has that in his back pocket. In terms of the fight, doesn't go to decision. Do they have that? Oh, they only have Tybura to win inside the distance is plus 275. Maybe if they have the fight at like over under 1.5, I would consider the over 1.5. Unfortunately, I don't have that number in front of me right now, so I can't really give you guys an educated guess. But if that's in like the minus 120 to like minus 150ish range, I think that might be the way to go. We could see a more conservative Tybura, maybe trying to clinch up a little bit more, try to wear out Spivak. And then Spivak is obviously going to want to grapple himself too and probably get this fight to the ground. And we could see Tybura's submission hold up a little bit. But I'm going to go with Spivak probably to win by third round TKO. I think he gets Tybura down a little bit more. His size is going to be a little bit too much for him too. Again, they're roughly about the same size, but I trust Spivak on top a little bit more than I would Tybura. But again, picking either side will probably be a pass for me, but I'll go with Spivak by third round TKO. All right. Next up, let's keep moving this train along. We got Brendan Allen against the returning Tom Breese. For everybody that's familiar with Tom Breese or may not know about Tom Breese, he hasn't fought since he fought Daniel Kelly way back in May of 2018. Even before that, he didn't fight until he fought Sean Strickland, June of 2016. Like, he has all these extended layoffs in between because I believe it's all mental for him. Like, there's a lot of stories out there that he has too much anxiety. He's not able to really put his thoughts together. I believe the Ian Heinisch fight literally just got scrapped the day of the fight after weigh-ins and all that type of shit. So that's definitely an X factor to think about going into this fight. Now, if you want to talk skill for skill, Tom Breese probably has one of the most smoothest striking games that you'll ever see. He uses his length very well. In terms of size, we're talking about 6'3" with a 73.5-inch reach. Brendan Allen 6'2" with a 77-inch reach. So Breeze has a little bit of the size advantage here, height-wise. Aalon will have the reach advantage here. I think we'll definitely see the size play a little bit of a factor with Breeze. If he's able to get into the groove and he's not really completely rattled going into the cage, he should go out there and maybe even knock out Brendan Allen. But I think Brendan Allen's ability to get fights to the ground and ride guys out is going to be very important here. We've seen Breeze getting taken down by Nakamura and all these other guys in the past, and that's kind of how you make things a little bit difficult for Breeze. I believe Aalon is going to have to lean on that, and he's going to have to trust his hands a little bit to get on the inside and actually get this fight to the ground. But I could absolutely see him going out there and pushing Breeze against the cage, making it rough, and then eventually getting him down. I don't know how you can go out there and completely trust Breeze. Again, the layoff, the mental state that he's in going into the cage, those are things that need to be thought about when you're placing a bet, or if you're going to place a bet on Tom Breeze. Fighters like Keita Nakamura, Daniel Kelly, Carl Pendred to an extent, even Sean Strickland, not really the most intimidating going into fights. And I don't think Brendan Allen really fits that mold either. But I think it would be very smart of him, and I think he's capable of doing this. I think he's aware of this as well too. Whenever they're at the hotel or at the weigh-ins or doing any stare downs, try to get into Breeze's head. And it's a double-sided sword. You can go out there and try to get into Tom Breeze's head, and maybe he gets into the cage and he's not fully confident and he's kind of scared about the type of persona that Aalon was bringing into the cage, or he just scares Tom Breeze to shit and Breeze just pulls out the fight as we've seen him again. And if he ends up doing that, I think that might be the end of Tom Breeze in the UFC, because how many times can you go out there, get guys to do training camps for this guy and then he just doesn't show up into the cage? I don't know if Brendan Allen will completely go that route. I think that's something that he could consider to try to get into Tom Breeze's head and then eventually, take that into the fight and grapple fuck him and go out there and win all 15 minutes. But skill for skill, again, like I said, Tom Breeze is striking on point. His 1-2 is insane. It's quick, it's fast, it's right down the pipe. It could definitely crack Brendan Allen. But just based on the outstanding factors here, the X factors that you got to consider going into this fight, I wouldn't mind the small poke on Brendan Allen at plus money. Plus 115 is what he's currently at. I think we'll see a little bit more Breeze money coming in as the week goes on. So I wouldn't mind keeping an eye on Brendan Allen and maybe, taking the the plus 130 if we get into that range, plus 140. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But Brendan Allen is talented. The kid's been around. He's fought a lot of UFC competition even before he got to the UFC. Anthony Hernandez, Eric Anders was on the Contender Series as well against Aaron Jeffrey. That fight he had against Kevin Holland, had to deal with that cut, which was nasty, but he goes out there and still submits Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland has some great submission defense. If you guys doubt that at all, go check his fight with Gerald Mearshart. That was a great fight where they were just pretty much exchanging submission attempts. But I like Brendan Allen here just due to the outside factors. I just believe that there's a little bit of value here on him. Again, I'll wait till I get a better number on him if I'm going to bet him. Otherwise, I'll pass. But in terms of just a prediction, I'm going to say Brendan Allen to win by decision. He just goes out there, rides out Tom Breese, and makes it a long, tough night for him. So I'm going with Brendan Allen by decision. Next up, we got Gabriel Silva versus Kyler Phillips. This was one of the fights that I'm going to absolutely admit I didn't do the most tape study on this one. I have no real interest in betting either side here. I believe Gabriel Silva is rightly favored, and the line is minus 125. Makes complete sense. He makes no bones about his game plan either. He wants to go out there and get this fight to the ground too. I believe his jiu-jitsu is going to be better than Kyler Phillips here. Phillips has been working on his jiu-jitsu. I believe is a training lab, one of the training lab guys there as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the MMA lab, I should say, actually. Good training camp. He's only coming off of one victory here. What am I missing? I believe it's weird that he got the call up here after his one fight in LFA. But you got to believe that Eric Silva is the better fighter here, at least in terms of the jiu-jitsu. I haven't seen anything in terms of Kyler Phillips being able to stop crazy takedowns, and I think that Gabriel Silva is going to be relentless with them. The Brad Katona fight, you got to take with a little bit of a grain of salt. Brad Katona has a weird style in terms of implementing his grappling. He's a very forward pressure fighter, and he was able to break Kyler Phillips and continuously get him down and outwork him. I think we won't see that type of approach from Silva, but I think that he'll still be able to get the takedowns when he needs them, and then just ride out Phillips on top. I don't have the best read on this fight. I'm being completely honest with you guys. So if you guys are really keen on wanting to bet this fight, I would highly recommend going to check out another prediction video to get a better read on this fight. But in my opinion, I'm just passing on it. I can't trust either guy. Kyler Phillips making his UFC debut, so you might have to give a slight edge to Gabriel Silva there. But we saw some things that we did like in that Ray Borg fight too. Ray Borg did a good job of controlling Silva, but I think he was just a better scrambler, a better gas tank, and you got to attribute it to that too. So I don't think that Kyler Phillips is going to go out there and put on a Ray Borg type of pace, so you can favor Gabriel Silva here. But I'm going to take Silva by decision, and I think it's just like one of the, like his fight that he had over in Poland against Camille, I believe it was, where he just pretty much took him down at will and rode out those fights on top. So I'm taking Gabriel Silva by decision. Next up, we got Steve Garcia Jr. versus Grant Dawson. This is a very short notice. What am I talking about? Sorry, Steve Garcia Jr. versus Luis Pena. This is a short notice fight for Garcia. Luis Pena was originally scheduled to fight Alex Munoz. I did a little bit of tape on that fight and then found out Munoz dropped out. So that's always shitty, right? Fucking studying for a fight that ends up getting scrapped the next day. Nothing you can do. That fucking comes with the game. But let's start off with Luis Pena. We already know what his game is all about. He's a long guy, one of the longer guys in the division. Lost his last fight to Matt Frivola via split. Believe that Frivola won that fight. Frivola was able to get on the inside, implement his grappling. Luis Pena has a great grappling base too. Very awkward when it comes to trying to grapple with him too, just because he's so lanky and has decent sweeps. But Frivola did a decent job in terms of trying to hold him down and landing big shots too. That's one thing that Pena is going to have to work on is the striking defense. Steve Garcia can definitely crack. That's something that you got to give to him. Plus 370. Nope. Where is he at? Where's this line at? We still don't have. We do have a line for it. It just actually recently dropped. Yesterday when I recorded the podcast, there was no line for this fight. So there is now. Minus 300 Luis Pena, plus 250 Steve Garcia Jr. Too much juice on Luis Pena, in my opinion. there was a lot of hype on him coming off of the contender series. Then he goes out there and loses to Mike Trizano, puts together another 2 wins, then loses to Matt Frevola. He's still patting himself out. I still think he's very green. And Steve Garcia has definitely been in the game for a little bit. 14 fights coming into this. He's fought for Bellator a bunch. He's a Jackson Wing product, so he's fought on their regional cards as well. He's put together 4 wins. His last fight against Jose Mariscal for LFA was stopped very, very early. He was definitely putting it on Mariscal, but it wasn't like Mariscal was in crazy trouble. One of the crazier stoppages you've seen, and I believe the commentators were actually, Pat Miletich was ripping on the ref there too. I've never really seen that ref around either too, so it was probably like low level judging at that point, but or reffing I should say. But he has a punch. He packs a lot of power. Mariscal was able to get him down a couple times, so I believe that Pena will be able to complete those takedowns too, but he's going to have to be careful when he does close the distance because Garcia can crack, and we've seen Pena get hit, and I don't like, kind of how he reacts when he gets hit. A lot of growing for Pena still to do. I think he is rightfully favored, but definitely not this high. So if you want to talk about value, I think Steve Garcia is the way to go. But I'm going to pass on this fight in total. I probably won't even parlay Luis Pena either in terms of my Hail Mary parlay. Not worth it in my opinion. I'm taking Pena to win by decision here. But don't be surprised if Garcia goes out there and springs the upset. The guy's been around for a little bit, so he definitely has a lot more to offer than a plus 250 in my opinion, especially against a green fighter like Luis Pena, who's still trying to make strides in his game. So Pena by decision, but it's a no bet and it's a complete pass for me. Next up, Grant Dawson against Darrick Minner. Talk about another short notice fight. There's a ton of short notice fights on this card. Very unfortunate for some of the fighters here. So let's start off with Grant Dawson. He was actually supposed to fight Chas Skelly. They're slowly turning into like Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. Like these guys can never, whenever they get scheduled to fight, there's always something pulling them out or pushing the fight back, whatever it is. Unfortunately, the last thing now is Chas Skelly. I think he tore up his knee or something, so he's going to be out for a little bit. But in comes Darrick Minner, who's been around the game. You want to talk about a guy that's been around the game? This guy's 24-10. He's coming into his 35th fight here, finally making his UFC debut. He's always gotten this close. He even had a contender series fight where he put it on Herbert Burns and was close to tapping him out too and hurt him early. But then Herbert Burns obviously comes back and gets the better of the jiu-jitsu and taps him out. But he's always been there. And now he finally gets a shot here against Grant Dawson. And in terms of the odds, I think it's a little bit crazy. Plus 375 for Darrick Minner. And I had a whole spiel about this yesterday when I was talking about when you have guys that have a huge advantage, but then to implement that advantage, they have to go into their opponent's advantage. So that sounds weird as hell, right? Talking about an advantage against an advantage. But the best way that I can put it to you guys is like Ben Askren against Damian Maia. Ben Askren, the best way for him to implement his game and get the victory is to implement his wrestling and try to grind out Damian Maia that way. And that's how he's always won his fights. But with him implementing his wrestling, that's him going in there and trying to out-grapple Damian Maia, who's a great grappler himself too. Now, I'm not trying to go out there and say that Darrick Minner is fucking Damian Maia off of his back or in the grappling realm, but he has 20 victories, either 20 or 21 victories via submission out of his 24 wins. That's got to say something. We've seen some crafty submissions from him in the past. He's always looking for a choke. He's always looking for an arm. So for Grant Dawson to win this fight, I believe he's going to have to implement his wrestling and try to out-cardio Darrick Minner and just continue to grind him out. But we have seen Dawson, slow down in the past. A fight that comes to mind is Julian Erosa. I'm not saying that Minner is a Julian Erosa because Erosa brought something different to the game. He was a long-rangey fighter, uses kicks a lot too. Knew his only way to win this fight was on the feet, so every time he got back to the feet, he tried putting it on Dawson, and then Dawson was able to get him back down and control him. That third round was getting a little bit sketchy for Dawson too, so you got to think Minner coming into this fight is like, okay, I know this guy's probably going to take me down, but that's working right into my game. So if you're giving me possibly 50, and again, I don't think Dawson is a crazy striker. I don't think he's the best striker out there either, and Minner has some power in his hands. We've definitely seen him drop some guys in the past too. So I think this is going to play out mainly in the grappling realm. And if you're saying that, a fight that's minus 470 for Grant Dawson, but he has to go into his opponent's advantage to pull off this victory, I would rather side with the plus 375 if I'm being completely honest. Again, Dawson is obviously the younger fighter here. He's probably going to be the stronger fighter, but it's going to come down to him, using his cardio a little bit better than he has in the past. And I think that's going to be tough against a guy like Minner, who's going to be looking for subs, looking for sweeps, making him constantly work even off of his back. So I like the plus 375 on Darrick Minner. I may potentially put like 0.5 units on it or something like that. But I just don't see a reason as to why you should bet Grant Dawson at these odds. If he was in the minus 150 to minus 200 range, I would get it. But minus 470 is a little bit crazy. And say what you want about like the short notice for Minner here. This guy's been fighting for fucking 34 fights now. I'm sure he's had a bunch of short notice fights in the past. And again, this fight's going to have to be taken into his realm for Dawson to get this victory. And I'm willing to take the chances at plus 375. So for the prediction wars that I'm doing for Mr. Arkansas, shout out to him as well. I'm going to go with Minner here. I think that everybody's going to pick Dawson, so I'll go with Minner. I'm going to say Minner by submission, third round. But yeah, be very wary about parlaying Grant Dawson in any type of Hail Mary, long shot type of parlays. I think that he has the best chance to shit the bed out of all the big favorites on this card. So be very, very wary. I'm telling you guys. I'm picking Minner by third round sub. We'll see how it actually plays out and if I'll actually bet it myself. But plus 375 is very, very intriguing. He's getting close to plus 400 on one of my websites on Sportbet. So I might even have to put the 0.25 units on him there. I think he's worth a shot. All right. Next up, Megan Anderson against Norma Dumont. Almost made her a male. If you guys have been following me for a while now, you guys know how much I'm not really a fan of Megan Anderson. I don't know what it is about her, whether it's her striking, whether it's her trying to be too sexy. And, I have no animosity towards her. I just, I hope the best for her. But I love fading her. I did fade her against Zarah Fairn. Fairn. I'm never going to get this girl's name, who does actually fight later in the card too. I'm never going to get her name down, but let's go with Zarah. I did bet Zarah there. She was like a huge favorite or underdog, like plus 400, plus 500. I thought that was crazy. I was decently impressed with Zara's stand-up. And we did see it for a little bit before Megan Anderson initiated the clinch, got the fight to the ground and got the submission. But, she did put it on Megan for a little bit there. And the issue in this fight in terms of capping it is more so Norma than it is Megan. There's not that much out there for Norma. There's just the one fight that she had. I believe it was for Jungle Fight. I got to correct myself real quick. Actually, it was for a different promotion, but it was the Erica Ladian fight. That's the only one that I could find. There was another one that I had, but that got removed by the owner of the footage. But there's just not enough. From what I did see, the 3 minutes and 30 seconds that I did see, she showed decent striking, but this is all against a girl that was 0-2. Didn't look like she really belonged to be in the cage there with Norma. So maybe that more exaggerated how good Norma looked in that fight. And then it was actually the other girl, Erica, who engaged in the clinch, tried to get the fight to the ground. Norma, was having none of that, was able to reverse the position and just got the takedown herself. And then she ended up working for a rear naked choke. Just not enough out there for me to confidently cap this fight and say, okay, put your money on Norma Dumont or put your money on Megan Anderson. There's just not enough out there. And I'm seeing a lot of people betting Megan Anderson. You got to be careful. She's a decent striker in the sense that she has a lot of power and she'll probably have, she'll always be the one with the most power at this division just because there's such a lack of skill there. But in terms of technique, she still has a lot to work on. And she has a great coach in James Crossan. I think that he could do very good things with her if he continues to work with her. But, she's very wild with her striking. I think somebody with crisp hands would definitely give her issues. We've seen that in the past. In the Holly Holm fight, she goes out there and, she cracks Holly Holm, makes it pretty much a close fight. But then it comes down to Holly Holm, a striker, turning into a grappler and then her out-grappling Megan Anderson. So we saw a huge flaw in her game there. So if Norma comes out there and wants to out-grapple Megan Anderson, there's just not enough for me other than the fact that I know that she had a rear naked choke win in that one fight that we have footage of. There's just not enough out there for me to be like, okay, she's going to go out there, take Megan Anderson down and just ride her for 3 rounds. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what's actually going to happen. Just for the fuck of it, I will predict that Dumont is going to win here. I will say that Dumont goes out there and takes her down and gets a submission of some sort. But another thing that you have to take into consideration here is that Dumont hasn't fought in over 2 years or close to 2 years. It's weird that Megan Anderson is always getting these types of opponents now. I feel like I've told people before, after Cyborg left, I believe this is now the Megan Anderson division. They're still keeping her around to hope that, she has the looks for it. She has this exciting striking style of, knocking chicks out. So she could definitely be marketable, but her skill needs to come up a little bit. She's not going to go in there and challenge Amanda Nunes today. Like, Nunes will probably be like a minus 500, minus 600, and I would probably bet her at those fucking odds too. Maybe even inside the distance. 5 rounds for Nunes to finish Anderson, completely on board with that. I think she could tap her out. But again, she's kind of being fed this fight. Let's hope she's able to go out there and actually pass the test here. I believe she has the capabilities to do so. But again, lack of tape makes me not want to bet this fight at all. But I'm going to say Norma Dumont by the submission. Just, again, can't be too confident about it. But I'm taking Dumont by submission. Next up, we got Iwan Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev. This may actually be my lock of the night play. I love me some Magomed Ankalaev. And besides his one hiccup against Paul Craig where he tapped out with 1 second left, the guy has looked amazing. Amazing striking. He holds his range very well, uses his kicks very well, kind of knows when to really... We haven't really seen him in crazy trouble other than him getting tapped by Paul Craig. But we have the benefit of the fact that he kind of fought the same mold of fighter last time around when he went up against Dalcha Lungiambula. There was one moment where we saw Lungiambula actually, crack him. Ankalaev got his shit right, pretty much back together right immediately, and then was able to take over the fight again. His wrestling is good enough to stifle anything that Cutelaba is going to throw at him. All it comes down to is if Cutelaba is going to be able to land that bomb on Ankalaev, and if that's really the only path to victory for the opponent, and I'm going to talk about something similar like this when we get to the main event, but if that's his only path to victory, I don't see why Ankalaev should be why he should not be the lock of the night play. He's going to be able to outstrike him. He's going to use the range very well. His cardio is good enough to keep up with Cutelaba for a round and a half, which is the amount of cardio I think Cutelaba has. And then goes out there and finishes him later in the fight. But at the he even got down to like minus 185, which was crazy. Now he's up to minus 250, minus 225. Happy to bet him there too, but I think there's going to be a little bit of Cutelaba love that continues to come in. So I'm going to sit tight. If I see minus 200 even, I might just pull the trigger at that time. But if I have to bite the bullet and bet him at like minus 230 or something, minus 240, I'll do that as well too. This is my most confident bet on the card. Outside of a first round Cutelaba knockout, there's no way that Ankalaev loses this fight. And again, you got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt with the lock of the night. There is always variance. There is always the chance the banana peel method or Cutelaba actually landing that bomb. I just don't see it. Like, based on everything that I've seen so far, Magomed does a great job of holding range and keeping fighters on the outside, using his kicks. If it comes to wrestling, I think that he will have the advantage there too. I think Cutelaba starts sucking wind in the 6th or 7th minute, and that's where we see Ankalaev really take over. Again, very, very hard for me to see how Ankalaev loses this fight. And again, when I said he is really good with his kicks, just watch his knockout of Dalcha Lungiambula. Landed a beautiful front kick to the face, rocked him, followed up with punches, and finished the fight ASAP. We could see something similar here too. He's so quick with it. Like, there's no way Dalcha saw that coming, hence why he got finished. We could see that with Cutelaba starting to slow down in the second round, and then we see a quick strike from Ankalaev to put him on his butt and put him out. It's very concerning that you're still getting Cutelaba going out there and getting a loss to Glover Teixeira in fucking 2019. Loses that fight by rear naked choke. He almost finished Glover a little bit earlier in that fight, but he just wasn't able to. And his fight against Khalil Roundtree, there's a little bit of recency bias going on for this in terms of why Ankalaev isn't a bigger favorite here. People are going to say, oh, look, he's changing up his game now. He's actually going out there and wrestling guys. Khalil Roundtree has been out wrestled by fighters in the past too. He fell in love to the Muay Thai thing, and instead of like he was doing very poor defensive things when Cutelaba was actually trying to clinch up and try to get the takedowns. Instead of digging for underhooks or anything like that, this guy's looking to like land elbows while getting taken down while one leg is fucking in Cutelaba's grasps. We're not going to see that from Ankalaev. He's going to be a lot smarter than that. He's going to be digging for underhooks. He's going to be digging to get off the cage or whatever the fuck it is. We're going to see a much better performance from Ankalaev than we did from Roundtree when he fought Cutelaba. So, love Ankalaev here. Love the spot that he's at too. I love the minus 215 even. Again, I'm going to be greedy and wait for that minus 200 because I think it could get back down there. I think there's going to be some love for Cutelaba. And again, the recency bias that he took out Khalil Roundtree last time around. But I think Ankalaev is the uncrowned champ at 205. I think he's the Dominic Reyes and Ankalaev. Those are the last two guys that should be able to give John Jones trouble. I'd like to think Rakic is still up there too, so I'm not completely writing him off. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ankalaev get a title shot late 2020 or early 2021, especially if he's able to start finishing these guys in spectacular fashion. The Dalcha fight was a great start. Hopefully he's able to get another one here in Cutelaba. But I'm taking Ankalaev by third round finish. I don't know exactly what though. I'll say TKO. Could absolutely be a submission too, but I'm going to go with TKO Ankalaev third round. And that's going to be the lock of the night play, so you guys can fucking... Don't ask me in the comments. It's going to be fucking Ankalaev. All right, next up, we got Felicia Spencer against Zarah Fairn. No idea why this fight is the co-main event, and I'm sure every fucking podcast that you've listened to about this card is saying the same thing, so I won't get too deep into that. But with Felicia Spencer, actually, somebody in one of my Twitter groups actually asked, if Spencer and Zarah fought 10 times, how many times would Felicia win? I said she would win 15 times out of 10 times. She would beat her the exact same way each time as well, too. I just haven't seen the best takedown defense from Zarah. She's decent on the feet. I think she may even have a slight advantage on the feet here over Felicia Spencer. But Spencer is kind of just like a bulldozer. She goes in there, tries to get you down to the canvas as soon as possible. I don't see anything from Fairn that shows me that she'll be able to keep this fight on the feet. And I think that we see Spencer just go in there, get the rear naked choke, and cash another paycheck. It's tough for me to see how Zarah wins this fight. She doesn't pack the biggest punch behind her strikes either, so it's tough for me to see her go out there and flash KO Felicia Spencer. Maybe she lands some sort of like flying knee when she's anticipating a takedown from Felicia, but I see Felicia going in there and just getting the takedown almost immediately within the first minute, getting this to the ground, getting the back, and getting the choke. No two ways about it. It's very, very clear as to what's going to happen here. Outside of a freak knockout or something like that, minus 800 makes absolute complete sense. I'm going to be honest there. The bet here, if you guys are really, really wanting to bet this fight, is Spencer inside the distance, minus 210. A little bit of value there, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'll bet it myself. Maybe I'll throw it into my Hail Mary parlay. But minus 210 isn't bad considering that. I think that she will, 15 out of 10 times, take Zarah down immediately. Zarah will give up her back, and then we get a rear naked choke for Felicia Spencer. So I'll say first round RNC for Felicia, and that's going to be my pick for that. I hate picking the minus 800, but when it's so clear as to what's probably going to happen, you got to go that way. All right, main event time. Joseph Benavidez against Deiveson Figueiredo. Very excited for this fight. Before I really started to dig into the tape on this fight, I was actually thinking that I was going to make Joseph Benavidez a 3.5 unit lock of the night play. Don't know if I can do that anymore. He should absolutely win this fight, and I am predicting him to win this fight. And it's not even the line that's kind of scaring it from me. It's more so the technical aspects of this fight. And, one thing more so than the other. So let's just be clear. Joseph Benavidez is obviously going to have the cardio and grappling advantage in this fight. Doesn't take a scientist to fucking figure that shit out. The most advantageous rounds for Figueiredo, or the rounds that he should be able to get the victory here, is rounds 1 and 2. He packs a lot of power in his punches. He's quick. He's very precise with his strikes too, and he holds a ton of power. So if you guys remember about the Cutelaba fight, I was talking about if a fighter only has one path to victory, it's more than likely that you should bet the other side, especially if the other side is a much better overall fighter. But with Figueiredo, his speed coupled with Joseph Benavidez's lack of striking defense or lack of concern for striking defense could spell some bad shit for Benavidez. And I really hope not. Like, I hope Benavidez actually goes out there, pulls off the victory here. And again, I am picking him to win. But I think Figueiredo has all the tools, all the physical capabilities of actually landing on Benavidez. And there's one combination, if you guys have been watching the tape, there's one combination you guys see that Benavidez loves to throw, especially when he always is the shorter fighter. Let's get that out of the way. But one thing that he always loves to do is he tucks his chin in a little bit, but then he rips shots to the body by closing the distance. Like his entry into closing the distance is always these uppercuts to the body and blitzing forward, keeping his chin down, but not really keeping his hands up either. So I believe if Figueiredo's coaches are watching that, they're going to be like, all right, once you see him start to give that tell that he's going to start to close the distance and come with that combination, just fucking throw your power hand straight down the middle, aim for the chest, you're going to land on his chin, and you're probably going to hurt him. We've seen Sergio Pettis hurt Benavidez. He rocked him, he stunned him because he was precise, he was quick, and I believe he saw that in Benavidez's game as well. I think Davison has more power than Pettis, so it would be much more trouble for Benavidez if Benavidez tried doing that type of stuff and Davison was actually aware of what to do in that instance. And he needs 10 minutes. He needs 10 minutes to find that one shot that could possibly put Benavidez on his butt. With that said, that's not enough reasoning for me to go out there and want to bet Davison at plus 125 or even bet him at all. The play here, if you are looking to bet Davison, is probably Davison inside the distance. What is it? Plus 460 for Figueiredo to win inside the distance. It's crazy that Figueiredo to win by a decision is plus 225. Just don't see that. Like, there's no way he goes out there and takes 3 rounds from fucking Joseph Benavidez. That's just not going to happen. So if you are looking to bet Figueiredo and you do have access to the inside the distance odds, Figueiredo plus 460 inside the distance is a very good bet in my opinion. Again, if you want to bet Figueiredo, there's no point in taking the plus 125 change that you'd get there. But my play, actually, what I'd be looking at as my possible dog of the night play is the under 4.5. So either we get a Davison Figueiredo first or second round KO, or we get Benavidez completely outworking this guy and then getting a submission or a TKO in that 4th round when he is easily able to get Figueiredo down, continuously punch him, and we just see Figueiredo's stamina continue to drop and Benavidez we've seen him go 5 rounds on numerous occasions and still able to go out there and go for another fucking 5 rounds if he needed to. So I believe Benavidez has that significant cardio advantage, which will help him get him a finish later in the fight. Fight doesn't go to decision. It's currently plus 135, so that leads me to believe that the under 4.5 will probably be around plus 160ish, plus 150 even. And I'm happy to take a shot on that if that is what it ends up being. Let me just take a quick look actually at Pinnacle. Pinnacle normally has these odds up already in terms of unders. Let me just do this live real quick. I apologize for this wait. Let's see. MMA, mixed martial arts, leagues, UFC, Davison Figueiredo. Oh, they don't have the over-under out yet, so I guess I was off with that. But either way, I'm expecting it to be plus 150 if there's any indication from the plus 135 fight doesn't go to decision. In terms of bet, I'm going to say Benavidez by 4th round TKO. Would be skeptical of betting him. I see a lot of people out there betting him, and again, I am predicting him to win, so okay, I understand that. But just be very, very wary and just know that Davison has that one-shot knockout power. And we've seen the chink that he could potentially expose in Benavidez in his striking defense to actually land that power shot. So, yeah, it's pushed me away from wanting to bet Benavidez, but I'm actually a little bit more keen to betting the under 4.5. And I got to give my man Notorious Picks a little bit of a shout out here because he did initially bring that to my attention. And then when I looked at it a little bit more, I'm like, you know what? That's actually not that bad of a bet. So we'll see what the under 4.5 looks like when it actually comes out. But I'm going to take Benavidez by 4th round TKO. and he finally captures the belt. A part of me hopes that he just retires after that. Fuck it. Don't even bother defending it. Just say that you've reached the pinnacle of the sport. You've been around for fucking forever. You've only lost to the best of the best. Call it a career. Go home to your girl, Megan Olivia. I'm sure they have a bunch of other shit that they can do. But I would love to see Benavidez win the title here. And it would be even nice if my prediction is bang on with the 4th round TKO. So, just to quickly recap, lock of the night play is probably going to be Magomed Ankalaev. Just going to wait and see what happens with that line. And then possible dog of the night plays, I'll only pick one of them, but either Sean Brady if he gets to the plus 125-ish range, Brendan Allen if he gets to the plus 130, plus 135-ish range, and then a possible small stab on Darrick Minner if that plus 400 reaches as well too, like a 0.25, and then the under one and hopefully under 4.5 on the Benavidez and Figueiredo fight. So that's UFC Norfolk. I think I did a good job compared to yesterday. So I'm glad to finally get this podcast done with and get it out for you guys as soon as possible. Just quick things. I'm going to be dropping a Combative Stories episode tomorrow as well. That's going to be with the matchmaker for the regional show that me and Z are going to hit up this weekend. So make sure you guys check that out. We talked about the fights that we're going to be watching, which is just a quick thing. Jesse Bronson's in the main event, former UFC guy there. He's fighting Troy Lamson, who actually fought Alex Munoz on the last Looking for a Fight. So you might recognize him from there. Cody Fisher is fighting a local legend here in Adam Masenza. If you guys are in the Toronto area, please come out. Please come out. Regional MMA is super fucking fun to watch. Seeing a couple of these guys making their debuts and the couple fights in between, and then obviously the headliners are the main selling points. But if you guys are there, hit me up. Hit me or Z up. We'll be there and we'll say what up to you guys. Tape Index, make sure you guys check that shit out. Everything that you need for your gambling preparations needs, all on one page, everything just one click away. And I think that's about it. I think I'm done podcasts for the week too, thank God. It feels like a long-ass week. Next week I got 2 in-studio guests. Those episodes will be coming out throughout those weeks as well too. And that's it. I got to go in and fucking edit this shit and get it out to you guys ASAP and then start editing the Combative Stories episode too. So long night ahead for you, boy. I appreciate you guys checking out the episode. Make sure you guys subscribe, dude. I'm over the 800 mark. I appreciate you guys for that. But I want to get to that 1,000 mark. That's my goal. So I appreciate you guys hitting the subscribe there. Hit the like. Leave a comment. Talk shit. Love me. Do whatever the fuck you guys want. Just do something with the video or podcast, whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, see you guys next week. Check out the Twitter. I'll be releasing my bet on there, obviously. My bet's on there. And that's it. I just want to keep talking. But I won't. I won't bore you guys with that shit. All right. See you guys next week. And good luck on your bets this weekend.